Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Joffy Noodle Legs here today. Noodle Legs even, with another Noodle film review. Today we're looking at 1971's The Blood on Satan's Claw. Now this edition here is produced by, let's have a look, the company. I'm not sure, oh, Screensbound. This is made by Screensbound, and this is just a normal sort of standard edition Blu-ray. It has got a sort of reversible cover with the same sort of picture on it, but with like some sort of posters of the original sort of release on there. So that is the copy of the film. So I'll go through a little synopsis of the film. As you see the beginning there, it starts off with a young lad working the fields with his plough. And as he's doing that, he comes across a strange sort of object that he sees on the ground. So after that fiendish gory find, he then runs back to the sort of house of the master of like the little town, the village. I think in those days the town would have like a master, a bit like a mayor sort of thing back then, but they would look called masters, and they were like the person that you report to of the village or the town. And he went there to report to him about his findings.
Superstitions die hard. Come and look, sir. Then you'll believe me.
Pray, dear Judge, do ascertain the truth of his story. Merely to set my mind at rest.
Very well. We'll investigate your fiend.
So after a while, obviously he convinced the master to go with him to go and have a look, just to show you what he's actually found in the field. So yeah, so he goes there, and while we're on the way there, we meet the local reverend.
Good day, sir. Friendly creatures. Ubique opera domini.
It's be Reverend Fallowfield, your worship. He's our curate.
Aha. Ralcare claims he discovered a deformed anatomy in those furrows. Knew you were any such?
Since my parsons died. Strange folk have been seen to pass this way.
So we've now met the reverend, and obviously they returned to the site where they saw what he found, like that sort of face in the, and it's no longer there. As this is happening, back at the sort of like the sort of master's house, the master's son, I believe, has arrived with the farmer's daughter. Okay, and it's the farmer's daughter, in which he's planning to sort of introduce to his family and marry.
I pray she will like me.
Oh, you may be sure she will.
Come on, girl. Come on.
Hey there, huh? What do you think Miss Rosalind back? She and I have to be married tomorrow.
So he introduced them to his family, and they were saying, well, she can't stay here. You know, back in those days, it was not the right thing for an unwed couple to stay in the same house. But they were saying, well, she's got nowhere else to go, and they say, well, okay, she can stay here, but she must stay in the attic. Now, this is when the film starts to take a sort of, you start to feel there's something not right. To be honest, I've got that feeling the moment I put the film on, that there's something not right about this little village and town. So it comes to the night time, and the young farmer girl was staying up in the attic, and she's starting to experience some sort of noises.
Peter? Peter, is that you? Peter?
Right, so after that, she goes back into the bed, and then you start hearing her screaming, and she's screaming and screaming, and then they go up to the room, and the son, for some strange reason, has the inability to open the door. Okay, so he starts panicking, and then the master, his father, and his wife come up to see what's going on, and the father opens the door, and they find that the girl has gone stark raving mad. The mother goes in to see if she can calm him, and then the mother gets attacked by the girl, and she comes out with this sort of like scratch claw marks across her face. So they decide to lock the girl into the attic.
Helen! Fetch round! I want nails and some wood. Is there a doctor near? She is beyond our reach. In the morning, the men from the Bedouin will come and take her into care.
So they've locked her in the attic to be removed the next day, and then father says, well, you can't marry this girl, she's, you know, she's gone crazy. So they decide to that she needs to go, and so the doctors whatever come and take her away, and as she's going past, she's like, you see her hand on like the door, on the banister, and it's like these huge claws, not like nails, they're like huge sort of claws, and she gets taken away, and then the son is very, very upset. So she gets taken away, and like I said, and then we cut to like the mother, who's in sort of bed with this sort of like bandage round her head, and obviously they all go to see the young girl, the farmer's daughter being taken away, and then the mother sort of sits bolt right up in the bed.
Young master's heart is quite broke. Alas, whatever will become of her in that terrible place?
And the next thing we know after that, the mother's gone missing. Okay, and that is pretty much the last we see of her. She goes missing. They go out and search party looking for her, but no one finds her. Then we cut to the local church with the reverend that we saw earlier with the snake, and he's got loads of sort of like young, sort of the youngsters of the town, like the children of the town, and they're all in there like a church sort of school, and he's trying to teach them the sort of stories of the Holy Bible and stuff, but they're not all listening, and one of them has a claw with them.
Give me that bag.
Now the blonde girl with long hair, her name's Angel. She becomes like one of the prime sort of characters in the story from now on. So we'll get to see a bit more of her during the film, because she's sort of like one of the main sort of protagonists of the story. So we'll get to that bit. Anyway, so we cut them back to the master, who's there with one of his sort of like workers, who's talking to him about, you know, can't find his wife and stuff, and saying that he believes that witchcraft has returned to the town.
That's nothing. Nothing, of course. Unless it were witchcraft. There have been some cases. Witchcraft.
So when it comes to the night time, the the son who came with the farmer's daughter decides to go up to the attic to try and find out what it was. He couldn't see nothing, so he stays in the attic. But as he stays in, he falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he has something's disturbing him from underneath the floorboards. Okay, so as you can see, it's a little bit random, and this is when the film starts to sort of kick off, and we sort of get the feel that there's certainly something wrong with the village, and especially with the children of the village, as there's some sort of witchcraft sort of cult going on there. And it cuts to that they get one of the young lads who's got like a he's got like this on his leg. He's got like a all the kids that pass that claw around the church, around their backs, all start to grow this little bit of hairy bit of skin, which they believe is Satan's skin. And there's one lad starting to get pain in there, and he goes home, and his mother goes to try and get the doctor, and two girls arrive at his house. They come and play with us, Angel's out there and wants to sort of like play a new game. So he goes with them, and they blindfold him, and they take him to like this old church ruin, where he then is sort of like tormented by the other kids. So as you can see that he's sort of like under that some sort of spell there almost. Anyway, Angel then sacrifices him. He then gets killed, uh, and his body gets dumped into the barn back at the house where he lives. And his mother discovers the body, and so they have some sort of funeral going on, and it's all sort of upsetting. And his sister, Kathy, falls for the same thing by a couple of lads that say, "Oh yeah, come and play with us." And they also take her back to the old church.
Kathy.
So this is when we come to probably the most sort of the sort of disturbing, iconic part of the film, where they get the girl there, and she's going to be a sacrifice, but they get a young lad there, and he rapes her. They strip her of her clothes, and she gets raped, and then Angel then starts stabbing her multiple times and killing her. So we have the funeral to that, and then Angel goes to the church and tries to sort of like seduce the priest, who has none of it. So then she goes out and speaks to like the worker of the master, saying that the priest told her to take her clothes, lied basically, saying the priest told her to take the clothes off, and all this sort of thing. So they get hold of the priest, because they tend to sort of like, "Oh, you're going to hang for this, young girl." But then the young lad at the beginning you saw ploughing the land turns up with Kathy, the young girl that's just been killed, and says, "Oh, this is Angel, and the other kids did this." So then the priest is set free. And all this time, the master of the town has left the town. he's left the town with a book. The book is all about sort of like witchcraft and things like that. And then he eventually comes back to the town as it's reported to him, yeah, there's witchcraft in the town. He eventually believes them. So he comes back to the town to sort of stop it from happening, to reconcile it. While this is happening, one of the other sort of girls is captured, one of the children, Michelle from the Frank Spencer's wife. She's caught and they throw her into the river, because back then they thought if you were a witch, you would come up and float, you know. But if you sunk to the bottom and didn't float, you weren't a witch. You drowned, but you weren't a witch. Anyway, so they chuck her in the river. And the young lad, again from the beginning, is sort of like the hero of the film, if you like. He comes along and says, "What are you doing?" "Yeah, but if she's not a witch, you're going to all get done for murder." Anyway, they all go off. He jumps in and drags her out and saves her. And he takes her back to sort of like the farmyard, where they find on her leg, she's got the hair, the Satan's skin hair. So they get the doctor in to sort of cut it off. And then she still believes that she's the daughter of Satan.
Thou stole my master's skin. Thou shalt pay with thine.
Now leave thy threats, or the Lord will punish thee.
My lord is stronger. Soon he will be. Come thou and serve him. We honour thee, for it was thee who first set my master free.
So eventually she gets out, gets away. She gets caught again. She gets caught by the master, and the guys he's brought back into town with him with their dogs. She gets caught because she gets her foot stuck in a trap, and then they sort of interrogate her to find out where all this is going on, and she tells them the old church. So that's all I'm going to tell you about the synopsis. I won't spoil any endings or anything for your film. I want you to enjoy it yourself. What did I think of the film? I thought it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was such a cool film. It reminded me so much of The Witch and stuff like that, the films that I like, because it's all set around that time period. Obviously, The Witch is based in New England, America, but this is based in a small little village in England. So it's even more connection with it, because it was like, yeah, it's so cool. It's almost like an English folklore story. It's fantastic. And it was, I actually thought it was incredibly well acted. I don't think there was any weak sort of acting in there at all. It was really, really well made. And for the time period, 1971, it was such a well made film. Really, really cool. It's not very gory at all. It's little bits of gore in there, but nothing major. And you know, the creatures is a bit funny, but it's 1971, so what can you do? But I really loved the premise of the story, and I found it extremely eerie and very atmospheric. It was nothing like a Hammer film. It was, you know, because that time was Hammer films and Amicus films were prevalent in the UK. There's nothing like those. Like the Wicker Man. It sort of stood out on its own. I suppose the Wicker Man is the closest sort of film you could say it's kind of a little bit close to, but it's not, and it is and it's not. It had that same sort of atmosphere about it. Obviously, like the Wicker Man was a cult thing, and this is also a witchcraft cult thing. It's fantastic. So the pluses of the film: the transfer is incredible. It looks amazing. It hasn't been made too vibrant. It's still got a little bit of a dulled down coloration, which I like because it gave it that feeling. Because back in that day, life wasn't all colourful and beautiful. It was probably bloody hard going, you know, to survive back in those days, you know. And it showed the vulnerability of people back in those days, because they believed in so many sort of things, you know, in old wives sort of remedies and stuff like this. Like there was one part in the film where they were just cutting off that skin of the girl, and it was just like, well, you know, and it was just done with tying her to a table and doing it, no anesthetic or anything. But it was, and she'll pass out anyway. And they gave her like probably some sort of alcohol or whatever. But it was back in then. That's what it's like. So, that sort of hardship comes a little bit across, and how they relied on one sort of person, like the master, for, oh, he knows everything. That sort of comes across, and no one sort of disagreed or argued with his words. They thought, yeah, he's right. You know, so it really captured, I think, old England, you know, ye old England. It sort of captured it really well, um, and I loved it. And I loved the camera work, because a lot of it was done really low down, almost like the ground and the earth was almost like a character in the film. I quite liked that. I thought that was a really clever sort of camera making. Obviously, there's the disturbing scene of the rape scene, but you don't really see any too much nudity on that. Um, and I believe that the director, I think afterwards in an interview, said that he wished he didn't put that in there, to be honest. But it's in there and it's a part of the film. Um, yeah, really cool film, amazing. Negatives. Um, Negatives of the film were because of the time it was made. So obviously the lack of gore. It could have been a bit more gorier, and I think maybe the actual ceremonies bit in the church could have been done with a bit more sort of candles, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. But it probably would have been less believable, because these are a group of kids doing it like in an old church. And I think if it had been with candles and that, maybe that would have made it over the top and spoiled it. I quite like the way it is. So negatives are a minimum on the film. So I'm going to give this, for a horror fan, it's an essential watch, and I'm going to score it 10 out of 10. There's nothing in this film I thought was bad. I was gripped by it from the moment it started to the moment it finished. The music was cool. It had sort of like a little folky vibe going on underneath, not too much, but the music was really cool. The acting was good. The costumes were superb, and the environments, the locations were spot on. And you did feel like you were in like a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere in England, and it just gave you that sort of vibe where everybody knew everyone. But it was such a cool film. 10 out of 10. So that's my review of Blood on Satan's Claw. Have any of you guys seen it? If you have, write down below, let me know what you think of it. Really cool film. Now, I have got some more reviews coming up. I do want to do more on the other three Species movies. So I want to be getting cracking on with those. And I've got some other films I'm thinking about doing. And I'll probably end up doing some more top tens along the way, as well as like some hidden gems. And also with my music videos, I want to be doing some more underrated albums videos for you. So keep your eyes out for them. And of course, my spiders. I'll be doing some more videos on them. Luckily, I've got 2 new spiders this week as a gift from a dear friend of mine, Amy. She sent me those on, so that's really cool. So yeah, you'll be getting some more spider videos as well. Please go and check out some more channels, guys, until the next video. Obviously, go and check out Horror Hands, Pizzowell, Horror in Todge, Sarah of Horror, RS Designs, The Horror Geek, and Man v Film. Go and check out those channels, guys. Until next time, please look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.